You have now reached the age of 59 and a half. And although that sounds like a weird age, based on the way the rules work with your retirement plans, a lot of things are changing in your life that open up some opportunities and some things you need to know about in the way that they affect your retirement decisions. That's what we're going to look at in our video today. And so as we look at this, the first question that we have to ask is what changes about your retirement plan, so a 401k, 403b, anything that's contributed into a tax-deferred retirement plan when you reach the age of 59 and a half. So the first and most notable is that you no longer have an early withdrawal penalty associated with these retirement funds. So whether you're working or not, once you reach the age of 59 and a half, any money in a tax-deferred account, a 401k retirement plan, IRA account can now be accessed without a 10% penalty associated with that withdrawal. If you go to access these funds for the purpose of a withdrawal, not a loan, and you're still employed with a 401k, you would have a 10% penalty associated with whatever amount of money that you took out that would go on top of the tax ramifications of pulling that money out. Even in a Roth account, you would have a 10% penalty associated with anything that was not contributions in the Roth position. So as we look at this, you no longer have that 10% penalty, but another thing that changes and really gives you a lot of freedom and maybe the potential for more decisions is the fact that most 401k plans allow you to do a rollover of your existing 401k while you're still working, and they would allow that to move into an IRA. So like we said, most plans allow this. You would need to check on your specific plan to see, if you are able to do that. And again, I always like to tell people exactly what they need to ask their either HR representative, the plan sponsor, the company that works this. You may have an 800 number that you can call associated with your retirement plan. You need to ask them, can I do an in-service, meaning while you're still working, non-hardship, so not associated with an emergent situation, rollover to an IRA. So as we look at this, that's the way you want to structure this. Can I do an in-service non-hardship rollover to an IRA? And the answer will either be yes or no. Now, again, some plans require that you separate from employment before you're able to do this. As we said, most plans will allow this to happen after the age of 59 and a half. So looking at the plan description, if you don't want to do that, contacting these representatives could be very important. So as we look at this, the next question we want to answer is why would we consider doing this? Because as we look at this, we're counting on the money being in this 401k plan now. Why would we want to go through the process of moving this into an IRA? Well, as we look at this, there's two things that we want to highlight here. And the goal, if you're still employed, is not to completely close out your 401k. So you still want that available for current contributions, current and future contributions, depending on how long you're working. The main reason for that is because you have a higher threshold that you can contribute to with a 401k plan versus an IRA. So 401ks as of 2023 tax year, if you're under the age of 50, you can put $22,500 in. If you're above the age of 50, you can get catch-up contributions that would allow you to put $30,000 of your own money and then additional with company match into this, where an IRA gets maxed out at $7,500. So, 25% of the opportunity that you have to save compared to a 401k plan. So you want to keep this open for those distributions, but doing the rollover will take you from a position where most 401k plans do have a limited selection of options for you to invest in. And typically those investments are more aggressive in nature. You can have a stable value that's very conservative, but you're limited to stocks and bonds and maybe a target funds or lifestyle funds that are depending on the age that you're looking to retire. But you really may be only limited to that selection of things. So as you get closer to retirement, you may need to spread out your money in different places, as we'll look at in a second. So, one of the pros of being able to move this to an IRA is simply opening up the entire investment landscape for you to be able to invest this money. And so if you go through the process of moving a 401k into an IRA, we call that a rollover. The important things to consider here is that you can roll this money from a 401k to an IRA and not trigger a taxable event. Now again, the company will walk you through, or the financial advisor will walk you through that. Typically, you want to make the check out. So I don't know what this is. You want to be able to make that check to the institution or company, and then they typically require a FBO or for benefit line for you as the plan participant. So it would be Fidelity Investments, FBO, your name. But that would allow this to be a non-taxable event. Otherwise, if you just say, send me money out of my 401k, most 401k programs are required to take a 20% tax withholding, then send you those funds. You don't want to do that because you don't have a taxable event that happens if these funds are put into an IRA within 60 days. So as we look at this, not a taxable event. So typically for the families that we work with, if they're still working but they want to have more investment options, we'll be able to do a lump sum of whatever the vested balance of the 401k is, roll that into an IRA that can be piecemealed out to different investments, keep this open as an opportunity to continue to have larger amounts of savings, maybe take advantage of some of these more aggressive options that we have in the grand scope of their plan, but be able to have both of these as an opportunity and really be able to look for some different options that are available for the IRA assets that won't be available inside of a 401k. So functionally, sometimes people think, well, if I move this over, it's going to be taxable. It's not a taxable event. You will have more options, but sometimes people get scared by having more options. You say, well, I don't even know what to do inside of my 401k options. How am I going to benefit from getting more things available to me? Well, again, this is where the value of an advisor coming along, building a plan, really shows itself because, as we look at this, functionally, you've got money in a 401k plan now. If you do the rollover to an IRA, then you've got that available. And then the way that we like to talk about investments, we typically break the investment world up into 3 different kinds of buckets. And we do it from what is the usable benefit to you, growth, access, or protection. And you invest based on how much you need in a priority position in each one of these categories. So growth is typically where most 401ks are positioned to, and there is a time in your life where maxing out and utilizing those funds makes sense, because you have time and risk on your side. But the closer you get to retirement, you may not want all of your assets here, which is why this 401k rollover could make sense for you, especially if you're wanting to retire within a year, 5 years, maybe even 10 years. So deciding how much is in the growth bucket, because most people on the doorstep of retirement do not have a lot of time to leave these assets alone. They also are not willing to take a huge amount of risk on this. So trying to dedicate and find the best options for those growth buckets becomes important, because you're going to long-term want some growth potential, because the growth bucket is going to be the thing that helps you fight against long-term inflation, so that you can have higher than inflationary returns historically. The longer you can leave that money alone, the more likely it is that that bucket is going to be able to give you that type of return, whether it's stocks or more aggressive positions. Access becomes important now that you do have access to these funds, since you're over 59 and a half, so that you can have them available for emergencies, and then maybe large purchases. Now that you don't have a 10% penalty, you may choose to pay the taxes on some of these assets and pay off a mortgage, pay a vacation, do something else. And then typically you want money in the access bucket if you have some concerns about long-term health care, just so you have a place to do that. And then protection is something where there becomes some need for safety whenever you get to retirement, just so that you've got a way to balance what has been typically an aggressive position over time. But if you're in the position where you need to have some income support for your lifestyle in retirement from your investments, these are typically the best places to take that from. So again, how do we determine for an individual what is the right balance that goes into this? Well, very simply, we look at it from a standpoint of, for us, we are planners. We're going to start with the goals and objectives that you have, and then based on those, looking at what your lifestyle needs are today and trying to keep your lifestyle the same or potentially better, how does that impact how we need to structure an investment plan to be able to provide the income that you need, factor in long-term inflation, make sure that we have the liquidity needs for healthcare in the future, but also make sure that we have a good opportunity to hopefully take advantage of some tax planning to try to pay the least amount of tax on these dollars now that it's not such a burden to get to them. And like we talk about with some 401ks, you may not have a Roth option. That's another benefit of moving that money to an IRA, is you would have the ability to do Roth conversions if it fit your situation. So again, for us, when we sit down with people for the first time, this is going to be where we start with. And then based on this conversation, if it's in your best interest to move from the 401k to an IRA, it will be driven by what things need to happen overall. Because again, if we start from a planning perspective and understand fully what it is that you need to make things work, then we can see very clearly what individual steps we need to take in each of these sections, or if we go back, how we need to make decisions of dividing up the assets in your 401k plan to really meet your needs as you look to retire either in the short term or in a few more years. So as we look at this, if nobody's really ever walked you through this type of discussion, I would recommend it first before you make the decision to roll a 401k over, because you want to be able to have a plan for what you're doing with that money before you ever take it out and try to invest it. So again, you can see a link below this video. I would encourage you to contact our team here, see if we can help you make sense of this decision, because a lot of times we lead retirement decisions with how we invest our money. As you see here, it really needs to be a part of an overall plan, but we would be able to walk you through this just like we see with your information and be able to help you make the best decision you can. So with that being said, hopefully this was helpful. If you have any questions about turning 59 and a half or older, leave those on this comment section below. We'll be able to get back to you on that. And we look forward to sharing more information like this with you in the future.